So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. And today we have a little bit of news from around the NFL that could be really interesting for the Detroit Lions. Now, according to Ian Rappaport and every other NFL reporter out there, sources say that the 49ers have received inquiries about Trey Lance from several teams. The former number 3 overall pick is potentially on the trade block, as Brock Purdy is projected to be the likely future starter. Now, Trey Lance, as everybody probably knows, was the 3rd overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. He's a player that a lot of people had very high grades on, a player coming out of North Dakota State that a lot of people saw as a future franchise quarterback. I personally was a little bit lower on Trey Lance. I had him around the late teens to early 20s as far as overall prospect in that class. And I thought that it was a little bit of a reach when the 49ers not only took him at 3, but traded multiple first-round picks in order to go get him with the 3rd overall pick. So, I've had a history of not being the highest on Trey Lance, and it seems like his tenure with the San Francisco 49ers isn't quite going to work out. It seems like he will eventually be moved at some point this offseason, and for a Detroit Lions team that is going to need a future quarterback, a team that has questions as far as long-term quarterback options, Trey Lance could be that solution, right? I was somebody, again, wasn't the highest on Trey Lance, but I still had him graded as a solid first-round pick and think that he still has a lot of tools to go out and be a quality franchise quarterback. Now, Trey Lance hasn't had a whole lot of opportunity in the NFL, right? He played in 6 games as a rookie and started 2. He went 1-1. He started 2 games last year as a second-year quarterback and played in 2 games before having a really serious season-ending injury where, again, he went 1-1. He had a 57.7% completion percentage as a rookie and a 48.4% completion percentage as a second-year player. In his rookie year, threw for 5 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and last year had 0 touchdowns through 2 games and did throw a pick. Last year, he did not look very good as the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, and even if you want to go down and take a look at his rushing ability, it's definitely something that needs to be considered, but even last year, they weren't really using him as a rusher. About 8 rushing attempts per game, which is pretty solid, but only 67 total yards on those 16 attempts, only averaging 4.2 yards a carry, which, yes, is going to help your run game improve. Yes, is going to be pretty decent for your rushing attack. But if you're having a quarterback throw under 50% completion percentage and only rushing for 33 yards a game on top of that, it's not quality quarterbacking play. Now, to Trey Lance's credit, I guess, his teammates did not help him out a ton, right? He did have a 10% drop rate last year from his wide receivers when he was playing, and, did have a 63.3% on target range, but that's 10% lower than he was as a rookie. And as you can see, the bad throw percent, 10 of his throws, 10 of his attempts last year, 33.3% of his passes were considered bad passes in the NFL. This is a player that just hasn't been able to figure it out. And he doesn't look like the player that we saw as a rookie. He doesn't look like the prospect he was at North Dakota State. And for whatever reason, last year just really didn't help him out. Now, again, there are things you can say to combat that. You can say that the first game last year was played in a monsoon and nobody passed very well in that game. And then, of course, he got injured very early in his second career, start of his second year. But again, you can just see he was significantly worse in his second year. His yards per attempt were down. His bad throw percentage was up by over 15%. His on target throw was down by over 10%, right? And it's not that he's facing a ton of pressure. He was pressured 8 times. That's not a huge amount. He was only sacked twice in 2 games. That is not a big amount of pressure. And when you look at his air yards, it's 6.7 intended air yards per pass attempt. That is not high in the slightest. Trey Lance didn't progress from his rookie season to his sophomore season. He regressed significantly. He got much, much worse as a second-year passer. And for a player that's only played 8 games and started 4 games in their career, a player that is 2-2 as a starter and 102 pass attempts, he just hasn't been very impressive to me. Now, I think Trey Lance has a value, and I think Trey Lance can very much become a very good NFL player. I think he still has the arm. I think he still has the athleticism. I think he still has the frame to be a successful quarterback in the NFL, but the accuracy is an issue, just like it was in college. The ball placement is an issue, just like it was in college, and he is a really big project at this point. He might be the biggest quarterback miss of the class right now, and that's in a class with Justin Fields, who's yet to flourish, with Zach Wilson, who really is struggling in the NFL, and, really a quarterback class that was underwhelming for the most part, and Trey Lance might be the worst of them all. So, with that being said, should the Detroit Lions trade for Trey Lance? Should they go out and call the 49ers and say, what is the asking price for Trey Lance? Now, I'm going to project that it's not going to be super cheap. The San Francisco 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks to move from 12 to 3 to get Trey Lance to San Francisco. I don't think they're going to give him up for anything less than probably a second, maybe a third-round draft pick. And I would not give that up for Trey Lance at this point. I think he's young, but he's going to have to sit for at least another year in the Detroit system, right? He's going to have to sit behind Jared Goff because Jared Goff is the starting quarterback for next year. And then you're gambling that in the last year of his rookie contract, obviously you have the 5th year, but in his last true year of his rookie contract, you're going in not knowing what you're going to have in a starting quarterback and giving up a top 100 pick for a player that we've already seen is struggling in the NFL up to this point. Struggling to process, struggling to read, struggling with accuracies and ball placements and decision making already. There's a big risk for the Detroit Lions. Now, again, there's a lot of excuses for Trey Lance, right? The Shanahan system is incredibly complex. He hasn't really had a whole lot of time to settle into the NFL and really grow and adapt as a player because he just really hasn't had the opportunity. But again, there's a counter to that. Brock Purdy didn't play at all until the end of his rookie season and looked significantly better than Trey Lance did. So there's a give and take. There's a lot of excuses for Trey Lance, but there's also a lot of concern with Trey Lance. And honestly, if it's anything more than a 5th-round pick, I don't think you can take Trey Lance on as a project. I don't think a top 100 pick is worth Trey Lance. And honestly, unless it's going for that pick that Okudah got or the 5th-round pick a few picks ahead of that, I would not give up a pick for Trey Lance. Right? It's in a bad spot contractually because you'll only have 1 year to see what you really have in Trey Lance as a starter. And if he doesn't work out, then you wasted a top 100 pick when we've seen that Brad Holmes is really good at picking in that late 3rd, early 4th round range. I'm not going to give up a Kirby Joseph. I'm not going to give up an Amon-Ra St. Brown for Trey Lance, who may or may not work out and hasn't shown the ability to play in the NFL at a high level yet. So, with that being said, that is kind of where I sit on the situation. I don't think Trey Lance is all that good as a quarterback, to be completely honest. He is not as good as Justin Fields, is not as good as Trevor Lawrence, is not as good as Mac Jones. At best, he is the 4th best quarterback in his own first round of the NFL draft. And I do not think a top 100 pick is worthy of Trey Lance right now. I really would rather have that 81st, 82nd overall pick than have Trey Lance on the roster. So with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Of course, let me know down in the comments below whether you agree or disagree. What would you be willing to trade away for Trey Lance to potentially be the quarterback of the future? Be very curious what you guys have to say and what you guys stand on this opinion. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, go down below and subscribe to the channel and like it. Make sure you hit the bell notification for daily Lions uploads. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you both so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.